This is section 2.2, day 2, simplifying expressions. Our objective today is still to simplify algebraic expressions using properties of operations. Today we're going to be focusing on something called the distributive property. So take a moment and think about what you remember about the distributive property from past classes. If you remembered anything, you'd remember that this top one becomes 3x plus 3y, and the bottom one becomes 6a minus negative 6b. If you don't remember that, that's okay. The distributive property is used for evaluating the product of a number and the sum or difference. So basically, the order of operations tells us to do what's in our parentheses first and then do the multiplication that's outside front. Well, we can't always do that. Sometimes there's a variable in the parentheses and we can't combine inside the parentheses first. That's when the distributive property is very helpful. What the distributive property says, it has 4 different cases. First one is a number times a sum. So I can take the a, multiply it by the b, and take the a and multiply it by the c, and put a plus in the middle. That's where we get ab plus ac. So in this example, I take the 4 times the 6, and the 4 times the 3. There's a plus in the middle, so I put a plus in the middle. The second case says the sum times the number. Basically, all I did was move my a to the back. I still take the a times the b, I take the a times the c, and I put a plus in the middle. So I have ba plus ca. Would it matter if I said ab plus ac? Not at all. So I take my 4 and I give it to the 6, and I get 6 times 4. I take my 4 and I give it to the 3, and I get 3 times 4. There's a plus in the middle, so I put a plus in the middle. The third case says that I can distribute into subtraction. So a times b and a times c with a minus in the middle. So 5 times 7 and 5 times 2 with a minus in the middle. And the fourth case, I take my a from the back and distribute into my subtraction. So a times b, a times c with a minus in the middle. So I take my 5 times my 7, or 7 times 5, my 5 times my 2, or 2 times 5, got a minus in the middle, so a minus in the middle. It is very important in subtraction especially that you do this in the right order. You go from left to right within the parentheses. It does not matter which number is closer to the number being distributed, you go left to right. All right, let's write an equivalent variable expression. So the first one, I'm going to take my 8 and I'm going to give it to my x. That makes an 8 times an x. I'm going to take my 8 and give it to the 2, which makes it 8 times 2. Plus in the middle, so plus in the middle. We are going to simplify one step further. 8 times x makes 8x, plus 8 times 2 makes 16. There's my final answer because I cannot combine those. For the second example, I take my negative 4 and I distribute it to the 7. So I have 7 times negative 4. Take my negative 4 times the t, so I have t times negative 4, and I put a minus in the middle. 7 times negative 4 is negative 28, minus t times negative 4 is negative 4t. Now there's one last step to clean this up just a tiny bit more. So you'll take negative 28, and remember, minus a negative is plus a positive, 4t. That is our final answer. This third one, we take our 9, and we give it to the 3m. We take our 9 and we give it to the 5. There's a plus in the middle, so I put a plus in the middle. Now 9 times 3m, we can actually combine that. 9 times 3 makes 27m. Remember, we cannot add things that aren't like terms, but we can multiply them. And then 9 times 5 is 45. And for the last one, we take our negative 2 times our 6y, our negative 2 times our 4, put a minus in the middle, some parentheses to clean it up there. Negative 2 times 6y is negative 12y, minus negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Last step, change that minus and negative into a plus 8. All right, your job. You're going to take these 4 problems, you are going to distribute, and then simplify all the way down to a single number answer. And determine if that answer is the same whether you use distribution or the order of operations. So for the first one, we would distribute the 3 times the 8 plus the 3 times the 5. And then we have 24 plus 15 which is 39. If we used order of operations, 8 plus 5 makes 13, times 3 makes 39. For the second one, we distribute my 2 times my 2, and my 2 times that 9. Remember, just like that. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 9 is 18, 4 plus 18 is 22. If we used order of operations, we'd have 2 plus 9 is 11, times that 2 makes 22. For the third one here, we have 6 times 11 and 6 times 4, and we're subtracting. 6 times 11 is 66, minus 6 times 4 is 24, so we're going to get 40. Oops, nope, we're not going to get 40. 66 minus 24 is 42, there we go. In our parentheses, 11 minus 4 is 7. 7 times 6 is indeed 42. And for our last one, we have negative 5 times 3 minus negative 5 times 14. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15, minus negative 5 times 14 is 70. Oops, negative 70. Minus the negative is plus positive. Negative 15 plus 70 is 55. To double check that, 3 minus 14 is negative 11. Negative 11 times negative 5 is positive 55. So basically, this just shows you the distributive property gets you the same exact answer as order of operations. So it is an okay way to deal with our parentheses in the first step. All right, here's our example. 2/3 times 12y plus 9 plus 4. A little bit more complicated of an example. First thing we want to do is make sure everything is a sum. It is. The difference here is this plus 4. We're just going to ignore it for now. We're going to distribute like we've been doing. 2/3 times 12y plus 2/3 times 9. And then that plus 4 is just going to hang out on the end. Well, 2/3 times 12y, 2/3 times 12 is 8. So we have 8y plus 2/3 times 9 is 6. And our plus 4 is still there. Now we combine any like terms we have. 6 and 4 make 10, so my 8y plus 10. And I cannot combine from there because those are not like terms. So these ones get a little bit more complicated. For A, the first thing we want to do is change it into a sum. So 6 times 2x plus 3 plus negative 4. Now we're going to deal with our distributing and keep that negative 4 hanging out on the end. So 6 times 2x is 12x. 6 times 3 is 18 with a plus in the middle. And my plus negative 4. My like terms are 18 and negative 4. So I have 12x plus 14 as my final answer. For B, we're going to start by changing that into a sum. So I have 1/2 times 2 plus negative 8b plus 5. Now this changing it into a sum is an option because that subtraction is within the parentheses. You could just leave it as subtraction, but then you'll have to change it to adding the opposite in the next step after you distribute. 1/2 times 2 is 1 plus 1/2 times negative 8b is negative 4b. And then my plus 5 is on the end. My 1 and my 5 combine. So negative 4b plus 6 is my final answer. And then for C, we're going to start by changing that into adding the opposite. So 9 plus negative 4 times 3z plus 2. This is especially important because in this case, we now realize we are distributing a negative 4. If you do not take that step, chances are you will try to distribute a positive 4, and then you'll end up with the wrong answer. So my 9 is just hanging out. We never want to add the 9 and the negative 4 before we deal with our parentheses. So now we do negative 4 times 3z, which is negative 12z, and negative 4 times 2, which is negative 8. And then we're going to combine like terms, 9 and negative 8. My 12z, negative 12z hangs out, plus 9 plus negative 8 is 1, and there's my simplified answer. Your assignment is the distributive property worksheet.